Bonjour tout le monde, aujourd'hui on va faire une revue des pronoms indirects, I et en. So this is basically just a little review of what we're going to be or what we have looked at already in class. So please view this video after class and probably before or even after your practice quiz, okay? You will see at the end of this video that I have extracted some questions from the practice quiz so that you have an explanation for the answers that you chose. Le pronom I. So, like I said, pronouns, les pronoms en français et en anglais, ça remplace quelque chose, okay? So you're not trying to repeat things, you're trying to replace it by a pronoun. In this case, it's going to be I. So, when it comes to I, like we've seen in 102, it's basically replacing places. But for 10, what class are we? 111, it's going to be places and object, okay? So, what are the functions? Quelles sont les fonctions? Donc, premièrement, le pronom I remplace un complément de lieu. Okay? A complement, let's just be fancy here. A complement of places. Introduit par chez, dans, en. D'accord? Chez moi, dans ma maison, en France. Alright? So, what do they have in common here? We're asking the question où, right? So when we have complément de lieu, you're asking the question où, okay? Pour poursuivre mes études en France, pour poursuivre mes études où en France, all right? So that's how you know that you can replace en France by I, because you're asking the question où. Okay, now where do you put the pronouns? You may remember that if you have a conjugated verb, or if you just have an infinitive verb sitting by itself, you're always going to be placing it before the verb. So in this case, it's going to be pour y poursuivre mes études. Let's do another one. Mon ami travaille dans une ferme. Mon ami travaille où? Dans une ferme. And where are we going to be placing the y? Before the verb. Okay, and again here, if you look at the two sentences, we don't have these two compléments de lieu again, because the whole point of using I is that it replaces whatever is in italics. This one is going to be new for you, okay? Le pronom I remplace un COI introduit par A, okay? Remember, COI is when you're asking the question à qui, à quoi, right? We've seen in 102 that it's basically for people. Je parle à qui? Je parle à Pooja. Je parle à qui? Je parle à la classe, right? So that's what we've seen so far. But if we have a COE, so you're asking the question à qui, right? So you have your complément de lieu here, right? You have a place, but then you also have that little preposition in front of it. That's when you know that you're going to be using I, okay? Number one, you're asking à qui, à quoi, right? Let me write this down. Okay. You're also asking où, because it's not only these two, but it's also a place, okay? Let's do some example. Vous vous êtes déjà inscrit à l'université. Notice that I can ask the question où and à quoi here, okay? Vous vous êtes déjà inscrit où? À l'université, right? It's still a place, right? That's what differentiates it between a basic COE. It's because whatever is in italics here is a place, or it will be an object, okay? Now, so just make sure that whenever you see an à in front of a complément de lieu, you're also going to be using I, okay? So where do you place it now? Here we have un passé composé, okay? Please note that passé composé comes in two words. You have your auxiliaire et le participe passé, all right? So where you're going to be placing the pronom, the I, is still before the conjugated verb. Or, like I like to say it, when you have a passé composé, you place it before the auxiliaire. Okay. Je vais étudier à l'étranger. Notice I can say je vais étudier où? À l'étranger. Right? So you have a place here. All right? So whenever you see, like I'm going to keep mentioning it again because it might get confusing. when we're going to do a COE next class, but number one rule is it's still a place. The only difference is it has a preposition that makes it a COE, all right? So for this one, going back to 102, sorry, if you have a conjugated verb and an infinitive, okay, this is futur proche. If you have a conjugated verb and an infinitive, the pronoun will go between the two verbs, right? So after the conjugated verb, okay? Going back here, if you have an auxiliary and then un participe passé, ça va avant l'auxiliaire. If you have a conjugated verb and then you have an infinitive, it goes between it, okay? Pensez à un petit job, okay? Here, it is not a place, right? It is more likely to be an object. Pensez à quoi? À un petit job. Okay, pensez-y. All right? So here is an instance where, remember for pronom I, you have a place and also an object. Okay? Pensez à quoi? Pensez-y. Okay? And going back here, impératif. It will go after the verb. Okay? And this is of going back to 102. Le pronom en now, ça remplace un COD introduit par un, une, des, du, de la, des. And these are indéfinis, right? So you'll see this in a practice quiz. It asks you to choose between défini and indéfini. So whenever you have these articles in front of or in the sentence that you're trying to get rid of, like a portion of it, you're going to be using en. Let's take a look at the example. Ce n'est pas facile de trouver du travail. Okay, so you don't want du travail. So what we're going to be doing is, notice that here, du, c'est un indéfini. So that's why you're going to be placing it before trouver. All right? Ce n'est pas facile de trouver quoi, right? This is why it's a COD, because you're asking the question quoi, right? Trouver quoi, that's why it's going right in front of this verb, because you're asking finding what, okay? It's always what verb you're using in addition to the question quoi. J'ai fait beaucoup de recherches. J'ai fait beaucoup de quoi, right? J'ai fait quoi, right? De recherche. So you're going to be placing that before the conjugated verb. Okay? And going back here, these are indéfinis. Il mange de la glace chaque semaine. Il mange quoi chaque semaine? Il en mange chaque semaine, right? Again, you're placing that before the conjugated verb. This is new for us, okay? Le pronom en remplace un COI introduit par deux. Whenever you see, so here we've seen when you ask the question quoi, right? It's pretty simple, just quoi all the way through. Here you're going to be asking the question de quoi. Je suis conscient de quoi? De cette situation. And again, you place that before the conjugated verb. J'ai besoin de quoi? J'ai besoin d'un visa. So you're going to be placing that before the conjugated verb, okay? Again, COE could either be the preposition a or the preposition de. In this case, when it comes to en, it's the preposition de. When it comes to I, it's the preposition a, accent grave, okay? Now let's do some exercises. You might see you will see this in your practice quiz, some of it, not all of it, but these are the type of question that you might get on an exam, okay? Je vais à l'université, okay? Now this is un complément de lieu. Remember this, right? It's telling us where it is, the place. So if I want to get rid of this, let's get to my highlighter. I will do j'y vais. N'est-ce pas? Ça vient avant le verbe conjugué. Je vais étudier à l'étranger. Ça, c'est un complément de lieu. I want to get rid of that as well. Okay. Je vais y étudier, because remember, if you have a conjugative verb and an infinitive, it goes in between it. J'ai beaucoup de recherches à faire avant de partir. So remember the de, right? Let's go back here. Right? Ce sont des indéfinis. So that's how you know that we're dealing with en, right? Let's just say I don't want to have this part here to be repeated. So I'll do j'en ai beaucoup à faire avant de partir. N'est-ce pas? And it goes here before that's the conjugative verb that we have. J'ai beaucoup à faire quoi? De recherche. D'accord? C'est un COD. Mon ami a des amis qui travaillent dans des fermes perlières. So here you'll see on the quiz that it tells you have two pronouns to replace it. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll ask the question, mon ami a quoi? Des amis, right? And notice that it starts with a DES. That tells me it's indéfini, right? Going back here, right? So this one is for sure I'm getting rid of. Qui travaille dans des fermes perlières. So this is un complément de lieu because I'm asking the question où, right? Mon ami a des amis qui travaillent où? Dans des fermes perlières. Okay? So how am I going to do this? Mon ami en a, right? Because this is what we've seen in the last slide. Qui travaille. Now, how do I get rid of the dans des fermes perlières? And ferme perlière is pearl farms, if anyone is wondering. This will go right here, right? Because remember, like I said, we're asking the question, qui travaille où? And then that's your complément de lieu. All right, so that's basically something that you might see on an exam. I'll keep doing those videos that can actually prepare you for the first test that we're going to be having. And of course, if you have a question, let me know. Et en attendant, bonne journée.